Hello, Internet, and welcome back to lovely, perfect Faraday. Episode number 4, Why We Can't Have Nice Things. I'm going to start off by saying you'll have to forgive the way I look. I've been working in a hot, sweaty, dusty plant all week while Princess over here has been sitting in this nice air-conditioned office. How you doing, George?
Yes, my name is George Merchant, and this is Jeremiah Evans. We are the hosts of Perfect Faraday. Welcome back, all you beautiful people out there that have tuned in for our deep thoughts and insightful insight into
The weirdness of our minds.
yes, and the issues of today, and we try to break them down from a blue collar perspective, from our experience and what we do. Just for those that don't know, we work in manufacturing and industrial, heavy industrial stuff, and we have a business here where we do controls and licensed electrical outfit, and that's who we are. And today we wanted to kind of start off by talking about hero worship, and we'll get into some of the nice, the things that we can't have, the nice things that we can't have now, and everything like that, and how that all ties together. Right now in your head, you're saying those things are just discombobulated. There's no way those things are related, but we find ways to segue down rabbit holes.
Yeah.
So hopefully we don't get too far off the beaten path. But I think we wanted to talk about kind of a guy that's sort of been in the limelight a whole lot recently. Um, Elon Musk. Sorry, guys, a little bit tired today. Elon Musk and some of the things that he's doing and everything like that. Oh, by the way, did you hear about Elon Musk teaming up?
No.
The collab he's doing.
Oh, no.
Yeah,
One?
he's Elon Musk is teaming up with Liddell. Is it the My Pillow guy?
Mike Liddell?
Yeah, Mike Liddell. Yeah,
I don't know, I
yeah.
didn't hear about that.
Yeah, Elon Musk and Mike Liddell are teaming up because they wanted to work together to make the far left cry themselves to sleep at night.
You and your bad dad jokes. So, with that out of the way, I just thought I would start off by talking about hero worship. I guess that old saying, what is it? You should never meet your heroes. And that's because everybody's human, like you should never raise somebody up to such a place, because like we're all humans and we're all flawed. I've always like had an issue with people that did that, like your big Apple fans that held Steve Jobs up on a pedestal and thought that he was the most amazing thing. For one, it was him and Steve Wozniak that started Apple.
Yeah, the Woz.
Woz was the brains of the operation. Steve Jobs was just pretty charismatic and knew how to get his way on things.
Yeah, Wozniak, man, he worked at Atari as a young guy.
Yeah.
And his history is pretty cool.
Yeah.
Real bright engineer. Pretty much self-taught, and the guy just brought a lot to wherever he went. And he understand how things work. He's just salt of the earth, more salt of the earth type of engineer that came along and really brought a lot to the table. And a lot of people just sort of kind of followed. Like I don't know if it was Steve Jobs at first or if it was the product, and then then it kind of brought along people just following that leadership of that company at the time. I'm not sure what came first there, the chicken or the egg in that case, but regardless, Steve Jobs kind of rose to the, this sort of like, idol status in people's minds.
Yeah. Well, I mean, he was very charismatic at presenting his products, and
yeah, I'd say.
But behind the scenes, like he was not great to his employees,
Mm-hmm.
But it was because he didn't necessarily innovate, but he said, "I want this, make it happen."
Yeah.
And you know, there is instances. I think he like threw the first iPhone, some of the first iPhone things. He threw one in a fish tank or whatever. I think there's like a,
Yeah.
it's not a documentary, but it's a movie, you know, where he did that. And he's like, no, you see the water got in. I don't want that.
Yeah, there was air bubbles.
Yeah,
air
it was
bubbles
like,
came out, and they said that's space.
yeah,
Get rid of that space.
exactly.
Yeah.
He was a pretty terrible human to his daughter. At first, he didn't even want to claim that it was his daughter, and apparently nobody even knows the background of that, you know, and he took that to his death. But, like, for some reason, he just didn't want to claim his daughter was his daughter, even though he came out with the Lisa computer, you know, so maybe he felt some remorse, but he never said one way or another. And I think it was almost before he died that, you know, he actually really, you know, and I think after there was like some lawsuits against him, you know, from the family or whatever.
I imagine he had deep regrets.
Yeah,
I think
and
he was
a human being.
Yeah, he's a flawed human being.
But you know, like I always heard people like Apple, you know, like throughout my life, and Apple has made some amazing products. But here's what I want to stress: like, don't worship, you know, the head of a company or whatever. A company is more than just that person. You know, they could be charismatic or that. You know, it's so many people under it that makes the vision happen. You know.
Oh yeah, there's so many pieces and parts to, you know, a company and making it successful. And not just successful, hyper successful. And you can't say that Apple's not been hyper successful. It absolutely has. In the last 2 decades, Apple has just, you know, been, you know, massively successful. And it's not just guys like Steve Jobs and stuff. There's other people that are like that have led some of the great, you know, companies that have been hyper successful, that have, you know, created these mega billionaires and, you know, created a lot of value and worth dollar wise in the stock market and in hardware, brought efficiencies that we didn't have before. You know, these things are good, but when we sit there and we follow somebody blindly, it's always really kind of strange to me to put a man on a pedestal like that, a human being on a pedestal like that, because
yeah, but you can
admire like
their achievements.
Yeah,
like
this one thing they get, and that's the thing that I have a problem with. I think when we get into like political discussions and stuff like that, is like you have to be so careful, because you can't say, hey, I agreed with this one thing Obama did, and then then you get attacked and you're like, whoa, hold on a second. I'm not saying I agree with everything that he did, or I agreed with this one thing that Trump did, or, you know, I think that this was a good idea, and people are just like, oh, you know, you're a terrible human being and this kind of thing. And
I thought George Bush Jr. was just very comical to listen to, like a bumbling clown, you know, but I'm really not sure what good he did.
Yeah, it's kind of hard to defend him.
Yeah.
Especially after the fact and everything like that. You know, in the time, in the moment, sometimes you feel like it's just like, oh, they're just attacking them because they're in that other party or something. And no, sometimes they're just, you know pointing out the obvious. And I think that's the times that we're in is we have like a whole section of society that's like, this, you know, gas is through the roof, inflation is through the roof. We've got these problems that we're dealing with. And a pretty large portion of society now is you know, accepting what the reality is, but there's still the zealots, man.
I guess on the flip side, you know, there's very few overarching things that you could just peg on one person too. Like a lot of things and people had to be involved.
Oh yeah, exactly. You're just like
the downfall of something, you know.
Yeah.
So.
Well, I mean, but that's complicated. It's hard.
Exactly.
It's really hard to peg. Like so you're like, oh well, the Iraq War, for example. You brought a Bush or thing, so that just recently admitted that no one person should have the power to go in and invade a single country like Iraq.
Yeah, and he's like, oh wait, no, I meant Ukraine.
Yeah, I meant Ukraine. That was funny. I got to admit, that was pretty funny.
Man, if he was like legit joking in that instance, that's the best deadpan like delivery I've ever seen.
Yeah, I was like, man, he needs to go on tour. But that was, you know, things like that. You know, obviously, like I don't pin it just on like one person. I can also kind of like separate that out and say, there's some blame to get spread around in this thing, and people need to accept their responsibility. Will they accept their responsibility? Doubt it in politics. I
Yeah.
doubt that's going to happen in politics. But when we talk about hero worship and stuff like that, when we look to, I think it's very dangerous to really be like looking at a politician anyway in that regard. I think it's like I think it's very, very, very dangerous to be doing that with any politician. I think that looking at policy and what it is, are they consistent in what they claim? Like if they tell you that they're going to raise the minimum wage, do they actually vote for that? Is that the thing that they do? And whether you're for or against that, I mean, I'm not arguing one way or another on that on the show. But when we talk about these sort of hero worship sort of situations, when these people are raised up, and then people start to blindly follow them, getting back to like Steve Jobs and everything. I remember the lines and in front of the stores and how people would wait out for days for the new stuff
Well, and people would lose their mind when he
Oh,
had
yeah.
his keynote speech every year.
Oh
They're
yeah,
like,
man.
God.
Yeah. I'm like, oh my! It was like Michael Jackson got up there.
Yeah.
You ever watch some of the old Michael Jackson videos, and there'd be like a whole bunch of like teenage girls, and then there'd be like 5 or 6 middle-aged women in there too, and
Yeah.
just and passing out and stuff.
That reminds me of when we used to film concerts, and
Oh yeah.
I can't remember what boy band it was, but we
Oh.
had access to the whole area. But they'd line up by the fence, like behind, like where the buses would pull in, and it was like these 4, middle-aged women. And we walked up and we're like, "Hey, how y'all doing? Like,
That wasn't-
you holding the place for your daughters?"
Was that Hanson?
No, it was
Was it
past
Hanson?
that. I don't
Oh,
remember, but it was just funny. They were like, "No, we're here for
Yeah.
whatever band it was."
Guys, creepers come in both sexes.
Yeah.
Okay, it's the truth. It's the truth. Yeah. But yeah, it's the idol worship that goes on when people do this, and it's so weird because people attach themselves to like brands and everything, and I'm like, oh, don't do that. Like you got your Ford guys, and you got your Chevy guys. Me and my business partner Josh, my licensed electrician here. Me and him like to joke around with each other and everything about the better trucks and everything, Ford or Chevy or whatever. But in all honesty, I'm not really loyal to a brand. I just look at like what's got a good record in at the time, because it actually changes. Like people don't really necessarily pay close attention. They think, oh, when I was younger, I had this old Ford or this old Chevy or whatever, and I never had any problems out of it. Therefore, that's what I want to get. And I understand that. I can understand that was their experience, or whatever. But then over the years, they're like, yeah, they changed the engine, they changed this, they changed the manufacturing
Yeah.
process.
I guess blind loyalty to a product too.
Yeah. Blind loyalty to ideas.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And like people, ideas, things like that. Like if you can't have your stuff challenged, we've talked about this a little bit before. If you can't have your stuff challenged, your stance challenged by anything, then it's probably not a good stance, or at least you don't know that it's a good stance, right? I mean, maybe you got lucky and landed in the right place, but in reality, you kind of want to you want to let people challenge you. You know, you want to let people challenge you. If you're
I
like,
challenge him all the time.
Oh, yeah.
He says, "Oh, did you not want a paycheck this week?"
I'm not that bad. Maybe a little bit, but yeah. So we challenge each other, and it's a good thing. It's really a good thing to push back and be like, hey, I don't think you're right about that, or have you considered it this way or that way? But that goes in, I think, with this idealistic sort of image that we paint for different people and stuff. Guys like Elon Musk, he's definitely got a following. And it's so funny because it feels like the following of who was like cheering him on has like shifted.
Yeah.
Especially in the political sphere, it feels like it's like shifted or whatever. And I think that Elon Musk really hasn't changed. I think that he's the not changed much. People learn and they grow and stuff, and they change that way. But I think that really in the political sense and stuff like that, he's the same person that he's always been. It's just that politics shifted around him. And so now there's like another group of people that are like, yeah, and I'm like, be careful, man. I wouldn't put him up on a pedestal like that. But I can respect the hustle. I can respect the hard work, the innovation, especially coming from a manufacturing standpoint, as somebody that works actually in, automation and tech that does that kind of work, I I can really respect that, and I can say, hey, I like what he's done here. I can respect these things that he's done. It's the most American-made car in the United States. A lot of people don't know that. It's the most profitable, highest profit margins of any vehicle, and that to me, most American-made car, highest profit margins, and I'm just like, man, the dude, it's going good. Builds, rockets and says, hey, we're going to send these up to space and it's going to be cheaper. And he because he cut his teeth in the manufacturing process and he learned about that. He learned how things are made. And we're going to get into that a little bit more about and this is why how it leads into why we can't have nice things.
So what you're trying to tell our viewers is that if you don't like the price of gas, buy EV, right?
Oh yeah, that's what I'm trying to say. Is it's like, oh, just go buy an EV, you'll be fine. The freaking there's so much demand for you don't have there's not enough EVs to even buy.
Yeah.
If you had the money and you could afford it, you still have like a year wait list, for the EV itself and everything. But what I've also noticed too is that like people like they attack them because this person is like the antithesis to whatever their ideology or hero is at the time.
Yeah.
Right? So if they don't go along with it, then all of a sudden they find themselves under attack. So when guys like Elon Musk came along, I remember all the articles, and I want people to try to think back a little bit, like to their news feeds and things that they were seeing fed to them over the last several years about like all the negative stories that were pointed at Tesla. And and at the time when Tesla was starting their thing and everything like that, I wasn't I was not one way or another. I was like, you know what, if the tech's there, if the market's ready for it, he provides a product that people want, and it brings along this evolution in driving and stuff, then I was like, that's great. Let the free market work its way through, and we'll see what may come may come. And I wasn't against it. I wasn't for it. I wasn't like a fan of Elon or anything like that. I mean, I like somebody taking a risk and putting it out there. I'm never going to besmirch somebody that does that, at least. So he puts it out there, and then I just heard, it was just negative story after negative story after negative story highlighted, and I said, this guy ticked off some people.
Yeah.
He's going against the grain, and at the time, a lot of the people that you would call traditional, like more left, really defended him. Because they were like, oh, the oil companies are attacking him and everything, and
I know.
there's money in it.
I would have been convinced when I first heard about Tesla, like in electric vehicles. For me, I was like, well, if it works out, I hate going to the gas station. I just always have. No matter what gas price, I just hate the whole process of pumping a gas. Like maybe go and get that little treat when I go to the gas station is the only thing I can say I really enjoy about it. But like, yeah, I was, I guess, indifferent because it was a new technology. But like more and more, it was just like everything's horrible about Tesla, and I'm like, okay, it must be a pretty crappy company. And I think that like people got that in their mind. And then now uh, I guess he's more outspoken or whatever. It's just easy to like fall back on that. But one thing to remember is Tesla, SpaceX. What's his other big company?
The Boring Company.
They're more than Musk. He has like a lot of employees, a lot of engineers. So when you're just like, oh, Tesla is like crap, just because I don't like what Musk, believes or whatever. That's just, I mean,
Yeah.
Is that true, or is it just how you feel?
Well, I think a lot of this stuff too is just narrative. I think a lot of it is just mostly narrative and stuff. So I think it's important to, break it down. Let somebody challenge your stance on it or whatever. I mean, at the same time, it's like you can not put somebody on a pedestal and still, like I was saying, respect the things that they do right and the good things that they do. He just, he's, buying or just bought Twitter. The
Has that been finalized?
he just had a meeting, like a meeting call,
okay.
that it got leaked or whatever and stuff
Yeah,
like
that
that. It
should
was
be
pretty,
interesting.
I mean, it was pretty just sort of middle of the road, sort of like call. He offered the chance for employees to ask him questions, and he answered them honestly and stuff. And he's, literally called himself moderate, and they ask him his political beliefs and everything in there, and he answers what seemingly seems honest to me, and it's just very mild response. I mean, nothing. He wasn't going in there threatening everybody or anything like that. It just seemed like
Yeah.
like a company wide sort of conference call that was real friendly and everything.
Yeah. Well, and all the stuff I like heard about him throughout the years, like I finally just started watching the man talk, and like, yeah, he's a little off, but he has Asperger's apparently, and
Yeah.
I've known multiple people in my life. Like it's almost like you're talking to a computer, like you're programming a computer or something. You have to be very like concise in the questions.
Yeah, you have to use precision in speech.
Yeah, and they speak their mind a lot of times. So,
yeah, the filters are not there as well, and they literally have to learn social cues. I have family members that deal with this, and they have to learn social cues, and they have to logically figure out when is the right time to say or not say something, and they don't pick up on social cues as easily. They have to really look for them and pay attention. So they learn them, but it is a much more difficult thing. Unlike whereas it's very natural even as children, before even pre-speech, for us to actually pick up on like body language and other cues. And as we learn these things as we get older, we start, we obviously, like most people could point out aggressive body language, for example, or they could tell when somebody's getting angry and everything. It's obvious even without them saying a word, like but but guys like Elon and stuff like that, now they learn this by being told, hey, this is them getting angry. Nobody had to ever tell me that, oh, you're making him mad. Like I could tell, right? Yeah. But these people had to actually learn that these are the signals and everything that you must use. So they can learn, but it is much more difficult for them.
So now that we've established ourselves as Musk Bros,
yeah,
not really. I'm still waiting for that other shoe to drop. I mean, he talks about going to Mars. That's a little bit out there, but
yeah. Yeah.
I don't stand by. I mean, everything.
Dream big though, man.
I used to think pretty highly of Bill Gates, but I'm not going to get into that here. Maybe some other time. But like he definitely.
I have never thought highly of the guy.
Yeah, well,
never have.
No, I guess not. I guess it's been a mixed bag. I mean, he did.
I didn't. He
didn't really invent a whole lot of stuff either.
Yeah,
he just
I didn't
purchased it and repurposed it.
I didn't actively hate the guy.
I guess it was more the Bill and Melinda Gates, but now it's probably more the Melinda Gates side of it. Where I was like, oh, maybe he's not so evil. Yeah, I guess it was like a back and forth, and I was like, but and I don't know that I could describe that he's evil, but he's definitely not done some great things.
I would
recent times.
I would more describe him as not good than evil.
But great, money is power, and power, absolute power absolutely corrupts. I don't know, something like that.
Power corrupts, man.
So, how does all what we're saying tie into, with Musk or whatever? We kind of just wanted to move into talking about Tesla as a company, actually, getting that out of the way.
Yeah, so Tesla's brought a lot of good things, not just Tesla, SpaceX, and the other work that he's doing. But, Tesla's put a lot of vehicles on the road now. And like I said before, it's the most American-made car in the United States.
Yeah. How does it tie into the industry? What are some of the technologies in that actually, have come out of similarly to manufacturing?
Okay, so with what he's doing, it couldn't exist without modern manufacturing. So what a lot of people don't realize about electric car, and I won't try to go into this too deeply, but the what's called a VFD, or variable frequency drive, when they first came out, it's motor speed control. So you maybe see where I'm getting with this. Motor speed control is something that we use every day, and we just installed 11 of them up the road here. And they control the speed, torque, of a motor. Well, if you go back 20 years, they were notoriously unreliable. You wouldn't have put this tech in a car. There's no way you would have put this tech in a car.
Probably would have blown up.
You would not have liked it. It would not be successful. But the thing is that all of the manufacturers out there, because it allowed for automation and it allowed for speed control of the motors and allowed to speed control an AC motor, because it allowed that and the amount of savings and the amount of production they could get out of it, despite the fact that it was notoriously unreliable and you had to change them out frequently because of their frequent failures, what it did is it fueled the continuous improvement of these things. So the electric vehicle couldn't have even existed in its current form without manufacturing up to this date.
The design of it is such a paradigm shift from your ICE motors, or what does ICE stand for again?
Internal combustion engine.
Yeah, basically your gas powered motors. It's just such a different process. Like every consideration of the entire car, like taking weight off here to make it okay for the extra weight of the batteries. Bringing down the battery weight where they can, and
energy density. Energy density
and still being able to go the speed. But the reason I'm kind of bringing this up is why we can't have nice things. What sets Tesla apart from other companies that are scrambling to do EVs now is they were built from the ground up. To create this new technology. That's not something you normally see in manufacturing. If you have this new fancy thing you want, it better be able to be, retrofit a few things on a fabrication line or whatever, to make it happen. Otherwise, it's not going to see the light of day. Am I correct?
That is absolutely correct. And the stuff that we're talking about here all really, it's going to tie together neatly. You'll see a little bit better. But so, what Tesla's doing and has done is they took something and said, we want to make, and they kind of said, okay, this is the end product that we want to make. And then they reversed the process backwards and said, okay, how do we make this all the way back in the manufacturing process? They had to create the manufacturing process, not for every item, but for most of the things that went into their vehicle. And so they created new manufacturing technology and ways of doing it, and improved on old ones. Not every bit of it. We are always building off the backs of our grandfathers. We're always the technology that we have. We're building off of their previous knowledge and work. So they definitely have built up off of that. Like in the case of the drives, the VFDs and stuff, they've built off of that knowledge and technology. But at the same time, they had to create whole new ways and sort of rethink how they were doing it. Because you can't just take a line that makes cars. This is why the right now the demand way outstrips the supply, and it's not just supply chain issues. Of course, that comes into play as well. But they can't even produce enough vehicles, no matter what, if they have the raw materials and everything like that, because they're trying to retrofit lines that produced an ICE vehicle, internal combustion engine vehicle.
Or they're reusing frames that they use for, a vehicle.
And that frame's not built for that. It's built to have a transmission tunnel. It's built to have an engine in it. It's got thousands and thousands of parts. When these companies set up orders through, their contractors, as they're buying, say, I'm buying all of the windows or the roll up mechanism or motor that goes in the door or something like that for this thing, then they're usually set out way ahead of time. That way the supply chain's typically smoother, and they have to run through some of that stuff too. You know what I mean? Because they've got these contracts in place that they got to take care of. But the manufacturing side of it, which is where we're more familiar with, what you see is that most manufacturing places are using manufacturing technology that's 20 plus years old. This stuff is much older. And even a lot of the upgrade that we're doing right now, it's not a technology upgrade. It's not like we're upgrading it. We're not upgrading it, adding some new fancy thing to it. What we're doing is we're making it more reliable. Is because the stuff that's in it is so old and antiquated and fails so much, like the old drives. We're upgrading it to modern drives, newer PLC the newer pieces and parts that go in it so that they have a nice running, sort of like replacing the engine in your car. That'd be a good analogy. We're replacing the engine in the car to a newer, more like maybe a little bit more efficient, but it's still just an engine, right? The technology is really just the same technology as it was 20 years ago. It's more reliable. That's it, and you can get the parts for it. Like the stuff we put in, you typically can get the parts quite easily. Right now, of course, this with everything going on in the supply chain, you can't hold that true for everything, or even the stuff we put in right now. But usually this is much easier to get stuff. But I don't want to go on and on about that. But
Yeah.
the whole point is that what Tesla's doing is that they're building an infrastructure that didn't exist. Okay, they're building an infrastructure that didn't exist, and once they got it figured out, then they started building more. They started building other plants around the world.
Yeah.
Big old plant in Texas, things like that.
Doing more collabs with other companies and
Yep.
stuff. BYD and that.
Yeah, and figuring out like how to continue to expand and grow this segment and provide more.
What were you telling me
vehicles.
about the patents or whatever?
Oh, Tesla said go ahead and copy. I don't think they released any software or whatever. I mean, somebody can correct me if they did.
Yeah, I don't think
open their software, but I don't think they opened up the software. But when it came to like their hardware, their prints and everything like that, they just put it out there, and they're like, copy it, improve it, compete.
Interesting.
That's a very interesting way of very
like,
interesting take, man.
In this day and age, I don't think too many companies
No, because
are vocal out in the open about that if they even do it.
We're gonna see where this ties together too, because it's more about the manufacturing technique.
Yeah.
Than people realize. It's actually a lot more about the manufacturing technique than the technology itself, because a patent's really hard to defend unless somebody just really blatantly copies it.
Oh, you mean you can't patent a rectangle with rounded edges like Apple tried to do at Samsung?
Oh, gosh.
Oh, they sure tried.
Yeah, but so certain patents are definitely hard to defend and everything. So like if you make a part, people can take that part, buy a Tesla, break it down, 3D scan it, see, get the metallurgical tests done and see what it's made out of and everything like that, and then they could copy it, right? They can make it, but what they don't have is they don't have their business structure, they don't have the infrastructure, they don't have the manufacturing technique, like the gigapresses and stuff like that Tesla has. Very interesting technology. It's an injection molding machine that uses metal instead of plastic.
Oh.
I'm real familiar with injection molding and plastics. That gigapress, I've never seen injection molding done with metals, and they had a certain alloy made just for that. Big. Oh yeah, like it'll do
the full frame of the body or the vehicle, isn't it?
By a quarter or third frames or half now.
Oh, okay.
Maybe it's changed a little bit over time. So, but very interesting because they're just injection and then boom, and then you've got a part. This is how you are able to make things faster and cheaper too, is in mass production. So Tesla's been under a lot of attacks, and I don't want to sit here and just rah Tesla either, because I don't want to be guilty of the very thing that we're warning against about hero worship.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I think we're going to move into, I don't know, do you want to switch over to that?
Yeah. So, Tesla's been under a lot of attack about like recalls. And I've seen this stuff going back several years. They're like, oh, there's a battery fire here, battery fire there, or something like that. And I hear about all these recalls, and there's always these stories that pop up about, it's recalls, and it's always front and center. You see these kind of sort of issues and things of that nature, and this is a just verify type of site or whatever, fact checker kind of thing or whatever. So
like I say, it says Tesla's largest recalls have been for minor issues that it could fix with software updates. If you want to scroll down,
mm-hmm.
but yeah, kind of get a bigger picture of what we're looking at here.
Yeah, so a lot of the recalls on their stuff has actually been for minor issues.
Yeah.
And they address this stuff fast. Sometimes they address things before, anybody even knows about it. But as soon as they announce they're going to do something, it's, you know, the NHTSA has been on their butt just instantly. It's like they've got it out for them. And I've noticed that pattern going on for quite a while. But
Yeah, 130,000 Tesla cars recalled because of overheating. But how many cars have they sold? Roughly?
yeah, that was that overheating issue.
Yeah.
Central information display screen. So we're talking about overheating in the center infotainment console.
Oh,
Okay, we're not talking about, like, you know, the motors or battery there either.
Yeah.
So
but how many cars have they sold? Didn't they say that at the bottom? Roughly?
no.
No, I think it.
Oh, maybe it did.
Yeah, about
Oh, yeah,
2.3
okay, I'm sorry,
million cars as of
From when they started
March
counting,
2022.
when they could get the data, when
Yeah.
they could get the data, they probably sold more than that. But
It's actually hard to get some of that data.
yeah, way harder than I thought it was.
The manufacturers apparently don't necessarily have to, or
Yeah.
you know, say what they have or haven't sold.
Yeah, that was just strange to me. That was really, really strange to me. But if you take a look at like this right here, and you go ahead and compare it to like Ford, and I'm not picking on Ford either.
No, and
I'm not
I'll point
trying to
out
pick
that
on
Ford it would be one of the companies that's like retrofitting their, you know.
Yeah, they're trying to do it this way, and then I think they've realized. I've heard the CEO talking and stuff. I think they have realized they do have to kind of follow the Tesla pattern in this, that they got to build from the ground up, because they're investing a lot of money in it. And I hope them the best. You know, those are jobs, American jobs, building stuff here. It helps to create infrastructure here for this stuff. So, hey, man, I'm all for it. But Ford had to recall 49,000 Mach-E's, okay, over potential power loss. Now, these issues were fairly dangerous.
Yeah, I had a car, a sporty car at one point in my life, and I went to, you know, change the turn signal sometimes, and if I didn't do it like fully and it got caught in between, my dash would and my power steering would lock up, and I had it fully. I was going 65 miles an hour one time, and it like fully cut off, and you know, you can't restart a car when you're like, you know, driving down the road. Like,
hey, old cars you could.
I had to like
Pop
slow
the
down
clutch.
and like luckily get on the side of the road, you know, with no power steering, you know,
I mean, how many
to
people
turn it over again. You know, it's that's a frightening, you know,
No,
thing
this
to have
is a
happen.
good this is a good gauge for how old you are and stuff like that. Have you ever had to push start a car?
Yeah.
You ever to pop
Yeah.
the clutch?
Yeah, until my last two vehicles, my 6 vehicles before that were all manuals. So.
Heck yeah, man! I remember popping the clutch, getting it started.
Let me get a manual EV. I'm
Battery
sure.
dead, starter killed. Hey, we had a way to get it started anyway, right? So on this one right here, this is just for the Ford. It's 49,000. I want to tell you what, that number, when you look at it as a percentage of what they've actually sold, and these were for some bad issues, okay? This right here there was two big major problems, and it was complete loss of propulsion while driving, okay? And the other one was that it may accelerate on its own, which
Yeah, that looks like it was far less
loss
issue,
of
but that's
propulsion
still
power.
not great.
Yeah, and then there was like, unintended acceleration. There's a software issue cause intended. That don't sound safe to me.
All right, yeah.
And I'm not trying
we're
to
not
pick on.
picking on Ford, but
Yeah.
okay, you have 49,000 vehicles. Well, what percentage of the market? I think it's
Yeah.
going to be.
Yeah. So this is 2021's sales. Now, I want you to notice Tesla up top here. Okay. Obviously, I think everybody's pretty aware that they're the number one game. Heck, I'm here in, middle North Carolina. I'm seeing them all over the place now, and even some older ones and everything. I'm seeing Teslas all over the place every day now. I'm seeing charging stations going in at Sheetz, everybody's favorite gas station.
Oh, it's pretty great.
Yeah, and
if you don't live on the East Coast and know what Sheetz is, I hope you have something near you.
you're not.
It's
living
just
a
where
good
you
life.
go if you want to get.
Anything.
Yeah.
Everything.
Well, it's not quite Walmart, but.
Yeah, it's the Walmart of gas stations.
Yeah, there you go.
But so you see Ford down here. You know what I mean? You see Ford at 111,000, and then
So
you got
just
Tesla
in
close
this
to
year,
a
they've
million.
sold like what, roughly a ninth or a tenth of what
Yeah.
Tesla has.
Yeah. So and then in Ford's recalling 49,000 Mach-E's, but this year they've only sold, of what's been reported, I think just like 12,000, around 12,000. it's like I said, guys, it's really hard to get all this data. Clean Technica has these reports and stuff like that, and
There's 27,000 Mach-E's, I think.
yeah, you won't get these reports completely up to date because you have to pay like $250 for them and stuff like that. But a lot of this stuff is difficult to kind of scrounge together to get like right up to the date on stuff. But
yeah, well, what's this? This chart kind of gives you an
yeah,
idea.
yeah. So the EV sales, if you notice right here, obviously Tesla sells nothing but 100%. You know, Chev 1.8, Toyota 1.2.
Yeah.
BMW coming
The
in
first column is
7.27.
total vehicle sales, and Tesla only sells electric vehicles.
Yeah.
That's why we have the EV.
And this was
tab
just during,
click there.
was this 2018? Or
Uh,
I want to say that it was.
yeah, this one's from 2018.
Yeah, 2018. So this is certainly not up to date, but we couldn't.
Yeah, and
could
like
not get the
Ford
most
that
up
has
to
probably
date.
been making more, electric
Yeah.
vehicles. But in that year they only made like 0.39%.
Yeah, it was
of
only
all
9,200,
EV.
9,200, which is nothing. That's
Yeah.
nothing. And that's a major brand and everything. But the point that out, the reason we wanted to point that out was because the thing that you notice on these is that you don't hear about a lot of the other recalls. Recently, I started hearing about them a little bit more. But in the long run, like over the years that I've seen this, there's been a lot of recalls across various different brands, but Tesla was like always in the headlines. It was always in the headlines. When you go, if you watched any investor stuff and people talking about Tesla, there was a lot of people that were really just attacking them, just actively attacking them over the years. And you always kind of wonder what their motive is. Maybe who's paying for advertising on their channel. Is it GM? Is it Ford? Is it Toyota? Are they big advertisers with that channel and stuff? So you got to see there's going to be some influence there.
Well, Tesla's stock has been down just because every time Elon does something. But here's the funny thing: look at how much it's selling for, and tell me you don't think it's overvalued. I mean, they sell a lot of electric vehicles, but I think the last time I saw it was like $1,600 a share. That's
it's way below that now.
Oh, is it?
Oh yeah, it's way below that now.
Like how? Well, at one point it was $1,600. And
yeah,
I'm just like, well, maybe that's the market correcting itself, because it's like.
We have the internet, so
yeah.
I think it's TSLA stock. There we go. Pull this up for you guys.
Okay, it closed at 650 today, so that's still probably overpriced. But
yeah, let's do like 1 year. It's been an extremely volatile stock.
Yeah.
Do a little 5 year there.
So to act like Tesla is on its way out just because it went from 1,600 down to 650, that's still probably.
Yeah.
I mean, what is Ford trading? What is Ford trading at?
1222 is about the highest it went. But yeah.
What is Ford trading at?
Let's see. But you got to look at. There's a lot of stuff when you're looking at a stock or whatever. You can't just go right off the price. You know what I mean? You got to look at because they can do stock splits, everything.
You need to learn how to search better, I think.
There we go. So it's $11.23 or whatever.
Yeah, but Ford is definitely a bigger company than Tesla.
Yeah.
That's kind of what I'm pointing out. That right there tells you that.
But they don't make as much profit per vehicle. They don't have the margins.
Yeah.
They don't have the margins.
Yeah, I don't know
they've
much
got a
about
lot of
stock
exposure.
trading, but
they've got a lot more exposure. They've been around since 1903. I mean, come on, man. I mean, it's like I'm not going to pick on any particular company. I'm not
saying because their stock is much more than Ford. I'm just saying it's overpriced probably. But yeah, there is.
But the whole market was too.
Yeah.
So when the whole market does goes down and everything like that, like Ford and everything like that, they get caught up in it too and everything like that. So it's everybody kind of gets caught up in the.
Well, and Ford may have split quite a few times. I think Tesla is talking about splitting. What, 7 to 1 or whatever?
3. I thought it was 3 to 1.
Was it 3?
I think it was 3 to 1. It don't matter.
Yeah.
It don't really matter. You can look it up.
Yeah.
If you're interested in buying Tesla stock, which if it keeps going
I
down.
am not a stock expert, nor have I ever traded in it.
Yes.
I'm not going to suggest.
Yes. This is not financial advice.
Yeah.
It's not financial advice, but I was thinking about maybe buying a little bit of Tesla stock if it keeps going down because I look at it as like if it wipes out all that overvaluation in it,
Yeah.
all the fluff, and because they just keep beating them down, and you're looking at a company that's making a profitable item that's got sign up sheets going a year out, and they're making like 30% margins on them and stuff like that, and they with no end in sight. Okay, I'll buy that stock because you know what I mean. It just got beat down, and then he's going to release some sort of they're going to release some sort of earnings report at some point in time, and people are going to go, oh my gosh,
Yeah.
you know, the PE ratio on this thing is insane, and it's
Yeah.
going to go through the roof again and stuff like that. So
Man, stocks are such a crazy thing. I remember
oh yeah,
I remember when Google first IPO'd and it was like $100 a share or something like that. I was like,
Yeah.
how they don't make anything.
oh,
But
if
that's
I
your
could go back and
speculative.
buy some, yeah.
Maybe we
I
can.
thought it was overpriced. I thought
Maybe
it was
we can
overpriced
do
when
an
it came out.
episode about like how the stock market isn't a true value of a healthy economy or not.
Yeah, the
It's a
stock
good
market is
indicator, but
not. Wall Street is not Main Street. That is I mean, I think it's really important for people to remember. It's affected by Main Street, but it can it can divulge away from Main
diverge.
Street. Diverge? I thought diverge was coming together.
No, diverge.
Oh, diverge.
Converge.
Converge,
Yeah.
diverge. Okay.
I'm
Thank
his,
you.
I'm his walking dictionary. I think I've mentioned
Thesaurus.
that multiple. Well, thesaurus.
There you go.
But in the case of diverge, you had it wrong.
I said the wrong
or
word.
divulge.
I said divulge.
Yeah,
didn't I?
divulge is
See,
when
I don't
you-
like you to tell
when-
you information.
Yeah, we're
I know and-
divulging
yeah.
our brain.
Yeah.
right now.
My mouth gets ahead of my brain is what happens. So what we're talking about in this sort of scenario, we're talking about people that they get attacked. They're trying to bring something to market and everything. To tie it into why we can't have nice things, right? Really, it comes down to that. Guys like Musk, stuff like that, they're putting in the work. They're risking their capital, their name and their capital, to take the risk to try to do something that's innovative and new, and it's very, very costly. And if the technology and the process isn't there to mass produce the thing, it's going to cost you even more to get there.
Yeah.
Because if you're familiar with manufacturing processes, there's roll to roll process, which is a continuous process. That's like the ideal way to make anything is roll to roll. Because if you can make something that the machine never stops, you're just rolling it up and on a big roll, and then it cuts and it and it never stops, and the next roll is just rolling it up, and there's no stop in the line, right? That unless you're going down for maintenance and cleaning or something like that, but you're just running 24/7. That's the ideal manufacturing process. Then you have things called batch processes. So, when you go and you buy your bags of chips or cookies or stuff like that. I'm literally using food as an example for batching, but you'll have these big bins full of flour and then bins full of chocolate chips or whatever, and then the wet ingredients, and then they'll go in. They'll dump out and feed into something else, and then they'll mix, and then they'll squirt out a certain amount, and they'll go through an oven and everything. And what happens is they get mixed in batches. They get done in batches at a time. That's not as efficient as a continual process. You want to get close to a continual process as possible. And then when it comes to automotive manufacturing, it's very difficult. Well, actually, I would say that it's probably impossible to continually a continuous process uninterrupted like a roll-to-roll process make a car, because you have parts.
Yeah,
you
I
have
think
things that
anything
have
with
to go
intricacy
in.
on the electronics.
You have stamping processes, and what goes into that vehicle is there's processes within processes.
I imagine parts of like electronics and that may be like the screens. I'm sure are like somewhat of a continuous process depending on how they do it. They might be able to the screen manufacturer.
Well,
it's not necessarily the.
It's actually cut up into, when you break it down, it's actually several different processes. Part of it may be a continual process, and then another part of it may be an assembly process, which is people want to think of the assembly process as a continual process because they see a line constantly going, but it's not.
Yeah,
it's an
well,
assembly process.
Videos you watch online are neat, but yeah, you don't get a full scope of how something starts and finishes. They'll just show like little clips of.
Yeah, and those lines
parts.
Stop and start a lot. They do. They start and stop a lot. Robots get knocked out of position. You might watch a cool thing on the news and think that the robot evolution's coming along in manufacturing and stuff, and I mean,
Yeah, that's probably
efficiencies
next week's
are
episode.
increasing, but yeah, efficiencies
Heads up.
are efficiencies are increasing and everything, but we're definitely not there. Not in manufacturing. I mean, most of our manufacturing tech's kind of 20 plus years old, like I was saying and stuff, and the reason because of cost. It's like, okay, a person that's going to invest in this, they're going to say, okay, am I going to buy a new machine and an old machine can make it just as good, and the new machine doesn't really, I mean, add any more than I need? Then no. Why are you going to do? You can buy an old machine and make it work, and you know, why you can spend $1,000,000 when $100,000 gets you the machine you need.
Yeah.
You know, it's stuff like that, guys.
So some of the technologies I've heard throughout my life, I mean, and actually part of why I chose the topic for this episode is like I'm so tired of people like thinking graphene, you know,
Oh.
like graphene, you know, like yeah, it might, well, not might, it definitely will do great things, you know, in the future, but I just really don't think they've tacked down
So
how to mass produce it, you know.
So who on YouTube, like if you're watching on YouTube, you're searching things up, or maybe it's on you see it on the sidebar of your favorite website or something like that. It's like scientists discover breakthrough technology, game changer.
Yeah, yeah. In my lifetime, optical chips, you know, like have been just years away. You know, full optical, not using electrons, and I think they kind of gave up on that because I haven't heard anything.
How about that tokamak reactor, huh?
Yeah,
We're just 2 years away, guys.
yeah.
Yeah.
Cheap titanium.
Yeah. Oh man, why'd you have to bring it? Hurt me.
I
You
know.
hurt me.
Well,
I bought into that one for a little bit. I was like, yes,
I mean,
very
maybe
promising.
you know,
Um,
aluminum was as hard to process as titanium at one point, but
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah, so stuff like that. So what happens is like you guys, a lot of stuff can be done in a lab that never makes it to mass production. It's an idea. The idea of an electric car is not new. It's actually over 100 years old now. There were electric cars a long time ago, but it just didn't make sense. The battery technology wasn't there. The mass production technology wasn't there. It just didn't exist. The stuff didn't exist for it. It really couldn't exist prior to now. People will be like, oh, why didn't they? Those greedy oil companies. The technology literally did not exist. So even though there was a version of electric car, it was more like an idea. It was more like a prototype or something built in the lab, okay? Certain things can be achieved in a lab that cannot be achieved at scale, okay? And that's very important to remember. Like, I could take the time and build this beautiful, intricate model, this custom sort of model, and what you're going to discover quickly is that you don't have a way of mass producing that same thing. For example, solar cells, okay? So in solar cells, we can do a lot of, I'll switch it over. We can do a whole lot of efficiency in the lab, okay?
yeah.
So,
and we've been years away from, 40-50%,
yeah.
efficiency.
Yeah, so solar cell, the NREL, they created one 39.5 in the lab. In the lab, guys. This doesn't mean you're putting nearly 40% efficient solar cell on your roof anytime soon. Anytime soon, okay? If it did, everybody would have, and if it was affordable, that's the other part of it is cost as well. If this could be affordably be made, where it was competitive with the panels that are out there now, everybody would be doing solar because at that efficiency.
And a way to see it come to market sooner is if it, something that can
mass produce that
on a previous fab or that.
Yeah,
But if it's something like Tesla trying to bring electric vehicles to the market.
Yeah, exactly. So you would have to build a whole process around this sort of technology, and there may not be a scalable way of doing that. People don't understand that, like, if I'm going in there with electron microscope and I'm moving things around to make it just perfect like that doesn't scale to pumping them out by the millions, like you can with other solar cells. So
yeah, and as far as what I understand from graphene, like it's a single layer of carbon atoms. What was it, a pencil or whatever? Like pencil lead, you could make it. Yeah, I can't even imagine how you do that in mass scale without like tearing the sheets and stuff. If that's what you're going after. I guess.
Yeah, there's and of course there's people trying, of course, and I don't want them to stop
Yeah,
trying.
and I guess Borafine is like the next one after that. That will.
Yeah.
After we get graphene, maybe someday. But
Yes.
see, in the case of that's a similar chemistry. They might be able to, like once
Yeah.
they get graphine down, just move
One
right
might,
into borafine.
one might help figure out the
Yeah,
other.
but
That's how a lot
I
of
don't
stuff
know the
works.
availability of borafine or boron. I'm sorry.
Yeah, boron. Boron.
Actually, it's probably pretty common, but it's not as common as carbon. Carbon's one of the
Building
most
blocks of life,
Yeah,
man. It's
exactly.
everywhere.
So-
Carbon is everywhere. So, here you go. So, this is to give you an idea. This is what the best efficient solar panels are being sold, and who sells them or whatever, and where their efficiency is at. Okay. And these are probably their more expensive ones because they're pushing the efficiency. And guys, this isn't saying whether the day is cloudy or there's some
Well, and that
dust
efficiency
on 'em
rating
or
could be like
in the lab.
Yeah, well, not so much in the lab, but like in their perfect environment. And
Yeah, I call it in
Yeah.
the lab. We're talking about in the test
well,
lab.
we can maybe get into that in some other episodes, but yeah, the rating systems and stuff are usually pretty fluffed. I don't know. I'm sure some of y'all out there see that. It's
like miles per gallon.
Yeah, in perfect, yeah, miles per gallon on a perfect sheet of ice, like going on for miles with no friction,
With a wind sail on the back
Yeah,
blowing you downhill.
exactly.
But
So maybe that number is more like 18%,
so to give you guys an idea of the process, so when you're looking at let me get this out of the way so you can actually see the whole thing. So when you're looking at like a process, and this is not the whole process, guys. This is not the entire solar cell manufacturing process. This is just a nice little graphic to kind of give you an idea that there are stages and steps within the process. They're etching here, and then they're well, good Lord, I guess I'm not that familiar with it, but but basically
better
it's
if you
wafer inspection, texture control, resistance measurement. These are
Oh.
things I understand a little bit better, but
So that they're checking it along the
yeah,
way.
yeah. And as they're moving through this process right here, this is like the traditional way of doing the solar cell.
Oh, one thing I want to point out real quick. Some things that are manufactured, there's a lot of waste, like RAM or whatever. Part
Yes.
of why RAM is so expensive is they'll make it and it won't test out to what they want. So
Yeah.
they can either use it in a lower application, or
Yep.
they have to throw it out, and that's an expensive process. So
That's how-
that's another part of
They do a lot of that with LEDs too.
yeah,
They'll do like LED sorting.
and screens and stuff too.
Yeah,
like
yeah. They'll sort them out, and then they send a voltage through it, and then it measures it really really fast, like the
that was
luminosity
an
off of
interesting
it.
video.
Yeah,
that I
and then
watched
it'll
of
like sort it into a different bin like automatically, and you'll see them kind of shift into these different bins for their different classification because they don't all come out the same way. This bucket over here sells for half a penny, and this one over here sells for $10 an LED. And it all depends on how it comes out because some of these processes they're not like consistent no matter what they do, no matter how much or how hard they try. Not to say that one day they won't be, because I do see like technology and this sort of thing making it more effective, more efficient. But the thing is if it works, it's profitable and it's efficient enough, that's usually going to stick for quite a while because it costs a lot of money, a lot of time, a lot of effort, to work on the manufacturing process.
Jumping back to Tesla, one of the things that really stopped them, and I would imagine there's some technologies too, is regulations.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's something to consider. Yeah,
because like the
Tesla had a hard time selling their car initially because most states would not allow you to sell directly to the consumer. You had to have a sales floor, right? But then the states, like, what was it? You had to be established or whatever to set up a car dealership. Do you remember that?
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I was looking this up. Say that again.
I'm sorry. A lot of states won't let you sell directly to. I think that might even still be true. they won't let you sell directly to the consumer.
Yes.
But on the flip side, most states wouldn't let Tesla
go through a
in
dealership.
to, or set up a dealership, or they didn't have the infrastructure. Maybe that's what it was. And no other car dealership wanted to partner with them, to sell their vehicles because they thought they were bunk. So they would set up like little facilities with charging stations, and I guess they would bring cars where you could like view them or whatever, if I remember right. Because I lived in Salt Lake at the time when Tesla was like really kind of taken off, and they set one up, and I was like, "What the heck is this?" It was just like a little facility. Is it still like that? I mean, is there actual Tesla showrooms? I really actually haven't looked into that.
I believe there is a couple. I think there's one here in North Carolina in Raleigh-Durham area, I believe, if I remember right.
So
don't quote me on that, but I believe that's where it's at.
I mean, I doubt graphene's that, but some chemistries and chemicals, like have probably really bad toxic waste or whatever that has to be disposed of, and that.
Oh yeah, definitely.
I know solar cells do, as much as we want to solar and wind is the future. Solar cells have been extremely toxic, like some of the chemicals.
There's some nasty parts of that process, and people have to deal with the reality of the technology they're dealing with, and what it takes to get there. To kind of go full circle on this right here is that there's a lot of work put into these things, and it's not done by one man. It's not just Elon Musk, but I got to give credit where credit's due. He risked his fortune in his name, and he sacrificed a lot. He slept out there on the plant floor, and he worked hard to make his company successful. For that, I can honor that. I can say that was good hard work, and I can respect that. That doesn't mean I agree with everything he says or does, but I can tip my hat to that. And say good job there, and that goes for a lot of people. And I think it's also important to question your quote unquote heroes and take a look at it.
Look at their motivations.
Yeah, look at their motivations for what they do and everything. But the amount of work that goes into this stuff is much more vast than people realize, and it's something that far outstrips that one single person. It's much further than that guy. So I wish him the best of luck. I hope that they continue to do good and continue to make a good product that people want and that's competitive. I hope they make one that's more affordable. Hope they can find something that's maybe below 30 grand or mid 20s or whatever. I know with inflation that's probably a tall ask now, but I do hope that things continue to go that way, because ultimately technology should be bringing efficiency. That's what you want out of your technology. You want it to make your life more affordable. It raises the standard of living because more people can afford it. So as we move towards that, I like it when I see people like Elon Musk helping to do this. There's Chinese car manufacturers right now that have cars that are under $20,000 that are these beautiful cars. It kind of rocked my thought process when I looked at them, and I said, my goodness, these are nice cars. And the U.S., measured in the U.S. dollar, were so inexpensive. And I realized that, eventually that might make its way here. And I'm hoping that
what was it,
American
like
car
$7,000 or
manufacturers
$9,000 or something like that?
Yeah, there was one that was sub 10 that was
somehow
blew my mind.
Kind of going back on some of the stuff we talked from other episodes, and I actually haven't mentioned this, but like the perceived value of something.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like when they bring that over here, even if they can make a killing off of selling it for 7 or 9, people probably wouldn't buy it, unless it was like the cost of what the minimum of a car is.
Yeah.
So that's somewhere where I'm gonna push on people to pull their heads out of their ass.
It may only
just
cost
because something's inexpensive doesn't mean it's not good.
Exactly.
Do your research.
It might only cost them like $9 grand to make or something like that. And they want, normally they would be like, oh, we could sell it for 12 and we'll make good money. But if we could sell it in the American market, just minus tariffs and stuff like that. They say tariffs didn't even exist. But in the American market, we'll sell for 20 because if we try to sell it for 12, we'll sell less because people think it's cheap.
Won't sell at all. Having worked in retail,
that's
I can
so
tell
strange.
people are crazy, man. They'll be like, "Let me get that one. I mean, it's got to be better. It's $20 more." I'm like, it's really not. You know?
Yeah. So it's
But
important to
I
look
got
at
to where I
actual
didn't even
value.
try to argue with people.
Yeah.
But like people will make up their minds on stuff. Again, brand loyalty. Like you know.
Weird hero brand loyalty is a weird hero worship to me.
Yeah.
Very, very strange. I hope that everybody's kind of waking up to this. Let's stop making heroes out of people. Let's get out of the cultish mindset. I don't think you should be you know looking at things like you know this is the brand or whatever. Now, if they've made a good product and you're happy with that product and you want to, give them repeat business and stuff because they're consistent with you, I understand that. I mean,
but still do
the
your
right thing to
research,
do.
before. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, I really like, certain computer manufacturers' parts.
Yeah.
I'm not
Yeah, well,
name them, but I tend to migrate toward them. But when I go to build like a new computer, I will research and see that particular part reviews
There's a
recalls.
There's a long-standing name in automation now that has just ruined their name with me. Absolutely ruined their name. They are the name in American automation. And because of their software and licensing and everything like that, they have absolutely just ruined their name with me. But it's because of their, to me, just terrible business practices with this stuff. But for years, everybody would just be like, oh, that's what you want, and that's what you want, and that's what you want. And I just was like, no, I don't. And that's not what I want, because everybody else says that's what I want. I want the reliable thing. I want the thing that brings the most value. I don't want to just stick this thing and because it's a brand or whatever. But a lot of Americans fall into that. A lot of Americans, and then we do that with people. Then we're like, Steve Jobs, Elon Musk. I'm going to leave the politicians out of here, but to stick a politician on a pedestal, I think you're a daggum moron. I mean, putting any of them on a pedestal, I don't care what side of the aisle you're on. You're just putting any one of them on a pedestal. You should just look at them as a flawed human being. Most people that seek power like that are narcissistic. They've got seriously deep flaws. I would never put one of those type of people on a pedestal like that. Just say, hey, they did good here and they did bad there, and leave it at that. But the worship of these things and people and stuff like that, my Judeo-Christian values, reminds me often of the verse that thou shalt not have any other god before me. And I try to keep that in my mind when I feel like I'm falling into a trap where I'm like, this is the greatest thing, and this person is the greatest thing, and I take a step back and say, I'm not buying into that cult, because I've seen so many good people fall into those kind of traps, that cult type of mentality. This party, I'm going to vote for this because that's the party or whatever. And I'm like, I don't think that's a good idea, man.
Even on a more personal level, I'm sure everybody has somebody in their life where they put a little too much value into them and they let them down, and they're only human,
Exactly. Yeah.
It's the same thing with
I'm
I just
sorry
don't understand.
I let you down.
Yeah, I
told you I was sorry. Why do you got to bring this up in front of the internet? I said I was sorry, man.
We'll do better next time.
Hurting me, man. Hurting me.
Oh, but for real, you made me lose my train of thought.
Everybody's people are gonna let you down.
Yeah.
Just love them the way they are. I mean, they're flawed human beings,
yeah,
man.
Yeah.
Love them the way they are.
But it's really strange to extend that to
people you don't even know.
Yeah.
People you don't even know. You're over there yelling at your dad or whatever and stuff like that because you went to college and you think you're smarter than him now. And you're screaming at your mom and dad or whatever because they voted a certain way and they're an evil Nazi.
I'm gonna pray for your parents.
And and it's like I mean, you literally are buying into an ideology and thought process and getting mad at them because you got this mindset, to this very cultish type of mindset and everything, and you're attacking them and not hearing them out and not looking at their perspective on it at all. And it blows my mind. It absolutely blows my mind because you don't even know these people. You don't even know these people. These talking heads in the mainstream media, these politicians, these different personalities that are in charge of these companies, these big companies and stuff like that. You don't know these people. They don't know you. They don't care about you. And the people around you, though, you're gonna write them off and everything like that when they let you down. But you're gonna blindly follow these other terrible people all the time. It don't make sense to me.
Making all sorts of excuses, you know.
Oh yeah, making all kinds of excuses like, oh, but they did this.
Yeah.
How about isms? That's what it's called. Right. Like how about when they did this, and how about when they did that? The other side and everything like that. It's like, oh, come on, guys, let it all go. Let the divisiveness go. But let's take these people off their pedestals and just look at them as just humans that you don't know, that owe you nothing. You don't owe them anything. Yeah. And start looking after the people that are close to you, and then it's a lot easier, I think, personally, to forgive somebody that's right there, that's close to you, even though it may hurt more when somebody's close to you lets you down. But don't put anybody on a pedestal, because everybody's going to make a mistake. And guys like Elon Musk and stuff, they're going to make mistakes, and you're going to go, that was stupid. And it's okay. It's all right. It's not a big deal. No. You won't be crushed when they're not your hero. They say never meet your heroes.
Now, if you're a dog person or a cat person, you could probably put your little fur babies on a pedestal. At least until they bite you, right?
That's right. No. I got 3 dogs. I love my dogs, but I call them little bastards all the time. So. Well, guys, you think we should wrap this up, or?
Yeah, probably.
All right, guys. Hope we didn't ramble too much. Please like and subscribe. Leave some comments on our channels. Give us some feedback. Tell us where we're wrong. We don't mind the challenge. And you guys have a wonderful weekend. And please tune in. Check out some of our past episodes and some of my, if you're a maintenance technician, some of my how-to videos.
Yeah, I'm gonna try to do a how-to video or two.
Yeah, Jeremiah here is going to help out, do some how-to videos, and helping the manufacturing techs grow our skills and help bring back American manufacturing in a solid way. It starts from the ground up, guys. You guys have a wonderful life.
Take care, and remember to think for yourself.
Think for yourself. That's right.
Think for yourself.
That's right.